What does it actually mean to truly know yourself? Today we're going to be looking at the topic of self-awareness as it relates to internal family systems. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Conor McMillen. I was trained by the IFS Institute back in 2014, been doing IFS ever since as a life coach, and I absolutely love this work. Before we jump into this video, I want to encourage you to go sign up for my newsletter and get your free guided IFS meditation to increase self-energy. You can find a link to that at the top of this YouTube's description box. So self-awareness is a concept that you have definitely heard of before, and the way that it relates to IFS is as a primary, fundamental, foundational tool to increase self. Without self-awareness, we really can't practice IFS very effectively. And if you're working with an IFS practitioner, in my mind, it should be their goal to help you increase self-awareness. And by doing that, you increase the capacity of self. If you're on your own practicing IFS, I would definitely encourage you to focus on self-awareness, because this is going to be the entry point into all the IFS work that you do. And in fact, it's really the entry point into just understanding who you are and how you operate, IFS aside. This is a very primary core skill to develop for personal growth, for healing, for better relationships, for better communication, for better resiliency, and for more relaxation and fulfillment in your life. So what is self-awareness? I'm sure that you have a pretty good idea of what self-awareness is, but let's kind of break it down a little more deeply here, because typically I think we might conceptualize self-awareness as just being aware of what's happening in our system. But to get more specific, what thoughts are we thinking? What feelings are we feeling? What body sensations are we sensing? To slow down enough to access self-awareness means that you are slowing down enough to be in this present moment. And by doing that, you activate self-energy, this core place of compassion, of confidence, of calm, of connection. And this is the place in IFS where we attempt to really live from as much as we possibly can. With an increase in self-awareness, you can also start to identify what parts might be active in your system. And by doing that, you are able to create a bit of separation between these parts and, again, this core place of self. So let's go through the top 5 reasons in my mind why self-awareness is so crucial for IFS. And this also relates to just you as a human being aside from IFS. But we are going to talk about it in IFS terms because this is what this channel is all about. So the first reason is, in order to identify your parts, you have to be in a place of self-awareness. And the reason we may want to identify our parts is to identify how we are being influenced. That is, in what part may we be perceiving the world? And in what part may we be taking action from? Ideally, we want to return to a place of self, and we want to see the world from that place. We also want to make sense of our system from that place. We also want to be taking action from that place. If we're not self-aware, we can be blended with or overwhelmed by parts that don't have the full picture. They may also not have the capacity of compassion, of calm, of curiosity that self naturally brings to the table. So the first step in the IFS process is going to be bringing self-awareness online and noticing, are there parts here? A simple question to ask yourself to start this self-awareness process would be, am I blended with a part? Or is there a part present in me right now? And by doing that, we activate curiosity, which is self-energy, and we also are developing the skill of being self-aware. The second reason developing self-awareness is so important in IFS is that it can help you emotionally regulate. And although we might be doing IFS in a clinical setting or in a very specific way with ourselves, so maybe an hour a week or a couple hours a week, what we really want to be doing is using IFS to have a better life. And how many times have you felt like your emotions just take you over? and in that process kind of take you out of life. If we increase self-awareness, we can more easily connect with these parts that are beginning to or even have overwhelmed us. And we can, through self-awareness, bring more self-energy back online and help soothe those parts by creating a bit of spaciousness between that part and self. And in that process, our emotions are more regulated because they are actually being felt through self-energy rather than being felt through a specific part that might be quite overwhelmed in the moment. So if you can use self-awareness to be aware of your emotional state naturally becomes more regulated, and you will feel more empowered simply by being aware of the emotions that are there, i.e. the parts that are activated. The third reason is that self-awareness is really the only way that you can lead from self. I am really excited for individuals to learn how they can lead themselves internally and externally. With self-awareness, you can bring more self-leadership on board by increasing self-energy. So the more aware you are of the parts that are present, the more you can make space to bring confident self, compassionate self, curious self, calm self into the picture and actually lead from that place. So in other words, take action from self rather than taking action from parts that, again, really don't have a full picture of reality. They're operating from a fractioned idea of what is happening, either externally or internally. And we really want to be taking action from a whole place, a place that can consider all of these different parts that are at play, what their needs are, what their wants are, and what is actually happening in reality out here. The fourth reason is that self-awareness is also going to naturally increase compassion. Many times when we are overwhelmed by one part, we can have another part come in that says that part's not good because it's overwhelming us. And in that, we create a place of judgment. And judgment does not actually help our parts heal. Judgment does not help our parts integrate. And judgment ultimately does not really give the system what it deeply desires, which is peace and harmony and interconnectedness. Self is really the only place that can do that work for the system. So with self-awareness, again, we are noticing a part that might be overwhelming us. And instead of having another part in that judges or criticizes or attempts to force that part to go away, we have self-energy here that says, I see you, I feel you, you make sense to me, I have compassion for you. And if that judgment part has already come in, we can do the same thing for the judgment part. I see you, I feel you, I understand you, I have compassion for you. And for both of these parts, we can also either explicitly or implicitly send the message that self is here now. Self is going to take care of it. And while we are open, absolutely, to receiving feedback, to receiving information, and to being connected with these parts, we're going to make the ultimate decisions from here. And the fifth and final reason is self-awareness is going to enhance your personal growth and increase your healing capacity. So the more that we can be aware of these parts that maybe can get triggered or that drop into a particular habit or drop into a particular action, these parts that jump into the driver's seat and take over, the more we can work with those parts. And again, using a lot of curiosity and a lot of compassion, help those parts feel seen. And in doing so, help them relax. And in doing so, help them integrate into the system. I often say this phrase, you can't heal what you don't know. And self-awareness is really the only way that we can open up that door to inner knowledge. We have to know our parts in order to care for them. And in order to do that, we have to slow down enough to be in a present state where we can bring self-awareness into the picture. So there's lots of ways to increase self-awareness. I would love to try one with you right this moment. It's probably only going to take us 30 seconds. It's going to be really quick, but we can do it right here and right now because I really want you to walk away from this video not with a cognitive understanding of what I'm talking about, but with a felt sense of what I'm talking about. If you would do me the pleasure, if you're open to it, I would ask you to just close your eyes for a minute, place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and let's take a big breath together with an exhale that makes some sound. And keeping your eyes closed, just noticing the sensation that is being created underneath the hand on your chest. And then noticing the sensation that is created underneath the hand on the belly. Noticing that you can warm up those two areas, both with your hand, but also with your attention. Try to stay connected with those two areas, paying close attention to the sensations that are being felt. Now you can ask yourself, what do I feel right now? And let's do one more big breath in with a big sigh out. So whatever came through for you, maybe you got an answer, maybe you got a visual, maybe you got a memory, maybe you got a thought, maybe nothing happened at all. That entire practice just increased your self-awareness. You just developed your skill that much more. And it definitely activated self-energy. That is a very simple practice. This is something that you can do upon waking every morning. If you feel very activated during the day, maybe something triggered you, something happened you weren't expecting, just take a moment and do that practice. Maybe before bed, if you're feeling a little tense, a little anxious, can't sleep, try that practice out. And I would really encourage you to do it as much as you possibly want without putting pressure on yourself to do it a certain amount in order to succeed. Again, this is just a practice, and practice means that we're trying stuff out, we're experimenting. We're actually not assuming or expecting, and we don't feel urgency about a result happening, while also holding open hope and belief that change is in process. And I do believe you can do both things. So a reminder, in your IFS work, self-awareness is kind of like the first step into this world. And it is my hope, if you're working with a practitioner, that this is a focus that they are helping you develop. And it is my absolute hope that if this is work that you're doing for yourself, that you can really focus on that particular skill. And it's possible that initially in your own IFS journey, nothing else actually needs to happen except these very simple practices where you are tuning in with this present moment. And I want to remind you that there are many ways to be self-aware. You can notice your thoughts. What am I thinking right now? Am I thinking about the past? Am I thinking about the future? What am I feeling right now? What emotions are actually present here? And my favorite, and what tends to work very, very well, especially if you're getting started, is what's happening in my body. Because we have this huge, incredible, beautiful thing called our body. And it is sensing all of the time. And most of it we are unconscious of. But if we can slow down, close our eyes, and listen, our body has a lot to say and a lot to share. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I feel a lot of gratitude for you being here. If you want more information, if you want to do more IFS on yourself, for yourself, I have a great program on my website. And for those of you who might be interested in understanding how you can combine the therapeutics of IFS with action-based life coaching into a very symbiotic and harmonic way with clients, I have a very special training that I offer also on my website called the Self-Leadership Coaching Training. And at the very least, I do hope that you get my free meditation. Again, the link is right at the top of the description box down below. I'll see you at the next one. Have a beautiful day.